I didn't come out here for nothing, so I think we should have our own chat and chew. What y'all think about that? Because there's so much to talk about. Let's see, we could talk about how Marilyn Mosby is 0-5 against Keith Davis Jr. That's a start. Or we could talk about how, come on, let's talk. Or we could talk about how Marilyn Mosby is 0-6 against those officers who brutally murdered Freddie Gray. Where I'm from,
talk about when I gave her evidence that she said she would open up my brother's case, that she never even called me back or said anything. We can talk about that as well.
Period. We can talk about that too. We can talk about that too, Tawanda. Where I'm from, 0-6 in one thing, 0-5 in another thing. That makes you, where I'm from, excuse me, Tawanda, a motherfucking loser.
L7.
Well, we don't have any food, but we can keep chatting. We can talk about how Larry Hogan wants to refund a department that was never defunded. You know, so I don't, so where I work, no, I know it's weird because where I work, if someone came in for a refund and didn't buy nothing, I'd look at them like they were crazy. But apparently you can ask for a refund. I don't expect you all to cheer, that's fine. But we could also talk about how City Hall still isn't open, but I can go to a Ravens game. We could talk about that. About how in every government institution, they make it difficult to go in and express your concerns. There is no reason why I shouldn't be allowed in this building tonight. No reason. Period. Nobody. There's no reason why we shouldn't be in there tonight. Are we not part of the community?
Yeah.
Do we not live here?
Yeah.
Do we not pay bills here?
Yeah.
Do we not eat here?
Yeah.
Do we not sleep here?
Yeah.
Do we not get married here?
Yeah.
Do we not have kids here?
Yeah.
Do we not go to school here?
Yeah.
Do we not drive around here? So what's the reason? You want to add something?
Yeah. I want to tell Larry Hogan that I want a refund of the millions of taxpayer money that get paid out in police brutality cases every year for every jurisdiction in the state of Maryland, including Baltimore City, Montgomery County, and PG County, all the sister counties' worst offenders.
And there you have it. And there you have it. Anybody else? Anybody want to speak for the chat? Chat.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
How you doing?
So, I'm doing great. So I want to first talk a little bit about our friend in jail that should not be in jail, Keith Davis, and then I want to talk a little about Tyrone West, who's not with us any longer. I was at the first trial for Keith Davis, and at that time he was accused of holding up a hack cab driver. And they had the cab driver in the witness box, or whatever they call that, at the trial. And one of the lawyers says to him, "Do you recognize the man here in the courtroom who held you up in the cab?" And he says, "Well, my vision's not very good. I can't tell." And they said, "Well, you can walk up close if you want. That's the gentleman we're asking you about." And so the hack cab driver walks right up within a couple of feet of Keith Davis, gives him a good look, and said, "That's not him. That was the first trial." And that didn't hold any water. So then they made up more charges about a supposed murder. Well, there was a murder, but it wasn't Keith Davis that had occurred earlier that day. They hadn't said a word about that until they lost the case about the hack cab driver. Keith Davis needs to come home.
Yes,
Right.
he did. Yes.
Now about Tyrone West. I have a somewhat personal interest in the fight to press charges against the cops that killed Tyrone West. I was a school teacher here in Baltimore before I retired, and I was fortunate to have taught 3 cousins of Tyrone West. A wonderful family. Even Tawanda's wonderful. And so I got involved when I retired and I had a little more time on my hands. And I've been working with West Wednesday, as have many other people, since that time. Tyrone West was an artist. He was a father. He became a grandfather. He was 44 years old when the police killed him. Now, why is it that we're outside and the person who should be prosecuting him is inside, and they've got cops here preventing us from joining that discussion? Right. Why is that? Right. I think it's because under capitalism, state power is organized violence for the suppression of a class. And they want to suppress the working class, and that's how they're able to do it. The same armed force, as Tawanda pointed out, that originated in two places: catching and making examples of runaway slaves in the South, brutally treating them to try to scare other people from rebelling and escaping. And the other origin of the police was in Boston, where they were used to attack workers fighting for better conditions and better pay. That's the history. I don't know these three guys at the door, but that's their role. They're defenders of capitalism
And property.
and what?
And property.
And property, yeah, being a big aspect of capitalism. And we say property, we don't just mean land. We mean the means of production, factories, stocks and bonds, all that stuff is property. Those are the defenders, whether they realize it or not. That's their role. And so personally, I think we need a revolution. We need to get rid of this system. And until that time, we can win here and there. We won in the case of George Floyd because they knew that this country would go up in flames in many places had they not put him in jail. We don't win in too many cases, but we're fighting for Tyrone West and many others, and we'll win whatever we can. But the main thing we need to win is a new system. Take this one down and create a much better one with equality, good education, jobs for everybody, food and clothing and all the essentials will be free. And the reason for working will be to take care of one another as brothers and sisters. That's the world I'm fighting for. And I'm sure many of you here have similar feelings. So free Keith Davis Jr.
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 Can't stop.
Won't stop.
Won't stop.
Won't stop.
Till killer cops
The killer cops
are in cell blocks.
are in cell blocks.
Can't stop.
Can't stop.
Won't stop.
Won't stop.
Till killer cops
Killer cops
are in cell blocks.
are in cell blocks.
Mic check.
Mic check.
You don't have to be anybody's expert. Everybody's welcome to come up and say whatever you'd like.
I was trying to frame my words because now we are at the table. This is our table right here. We brought our chairs. We brought our table. And was hoping to get in to have the discussion that's needed. And while we're separating intra-community violence and institutional violence, why is it that there's two ladies, two black women that has been fighting and been vocal and visible and still cannot get justice? That is a shame. And we should not be sitting here thinking that this is okay. And you in that room, you should not think this is okay. Because it's never okay. And people will not be silent about this. It's been too many years that this is happening. Too many. 7 for you, 8, sorry, 8, and 6 for Kelly Davis and her fight to free Keith Davis Jr. And we need to start thinking that every person that's behind walls, behind the bars, are guilty as charged. But we already seen time and again that innocent people have been going to jail for crimes they did not commit. I stand up here because I know what that's like to have a family member that was accused of murder that he did not commit. And that was 6 months too long for the fight. So I can only imagine what it's like to spend 6 years fighting against systems, against harm, against people, against folks that said they got power and influence, but will not do anything. And they wash their hands with it. And they're very slick with the language. Very slick.
Say that again, that part.
And the thing about it is, I know that there's people that's trying to think or trying to frame us as a bunch of rabble rousers. But let's be clear. Everybody out here pay taxes, go to school, work jobs with an S, take care of families, and vote.
Right. That's right. Absolutely.
And we are civically engaged.
They probably turned this shit on.
Now, it's going to come back on. Don't worry about it.
We don't need your
So, I'm going to say all this to say because I was giving them that time to speak. But let's be clear. If you're listening, listen to the voices out here. And stop trying to find ways to harm us, harming Tawanda, harming Kelly, but find a way to sit and hold these officers accountable. And that's the two that you know of, because they're out here. There are many more that cannot speak because they're either tired, don't have the time, or they gave up. So I'm thankful for Tawanda Jones and the Kelly Davis that was bold enough to say what they're going through. And they need and they deserve our utmost support in ensuring that they get what they need. Mic check. Don't be scared.
Say something.
Hey, Free Keith Davis Jr.
Free Keith Davis Jr.
Free Keith Davis Jr.
Free Keith Davis Jr.
So it's good to see folks out here tonight. I just want to remind folks again how much money the police department is getting. Next year, fiscal year 2022, thanks to Organizing Black, we know that for the $555 million allocated to the Baltimore Police Department, it is disgusting. It's fucking disgusting when you think about how many children are suffering, people suffering, abandonment. In case y'all don't know, 50 cents go to public schools, 20 cents to housing development, 12 cents to homeless services, 11 cents to recreation and parks, 1 cent to substance use and mental health. And you know what's even a bigger shame? You don't even see youth-bound prevention programs on here. Less than 1 cent. Less than 1 cent. All to youth-bound prevention programs. You think about how trauma lives in the body of how many children in our society, especially here in Baltimore City. I want every child of abuse to know, as someone who lives with complex PTSD, there is a reason why we were harmed. It is not inherently your parents' fault. It is institutions who decided to neglect us because they know that traumatized individuals find themselves in prisons where they can be used as slave labor to create those uniforms that y'all are wearing right now. Disgusting. To create the furniture at Towson University, at Hopkins, at University of Maryland, it is disgusting.
Very disgusting.
Shame! What you're wearing right now was made by slave labor.
Yes.
Remember that when you think you're doing something.
That's how their job started too.
My check.
And then for them to sit back and act so cold, and they always wonder why that divide. They meant to divide. Because now they should be coming over here greeting us, asking us if we need anything. That's what, if they wanted to do that. But then they're standing all over there bold and cocky, and they knew who to come with the foolishness. They try to go talk to Uncle Bill like, get out of here. And then as soon as I went up and said something, he gonna walk away and try to walk away with Shorty. Get out of here. You want to talk to her? Oh, y'all been warned. You've been warned. How about that? And let me give you a big warning. In case you don't think it can happen to you, take that uniform off. All y'all my skin complexion. And they don't give a damn about y'all. Let's be clear.
Nope.
Think about Detective Sean Seater, in case you want to get it twisted. Think about Officer Torbett, that was set up by his own. and they threw a gun by him. Think about that. Why y'all feeling cocky over there? Mic check.
Mic check.
You go ahead.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Those who are inside this building, they're not listening to us. They can't hear us. The only people who can hear us are these three individuals here who got the short straw to stand out and babysit us. Right? And I see you talking amongst yourselves. You're not really listening to us all that much.
They getting overtime.
But listen, when you get off your shift, and when you get home, and when you sitting laying in the bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering, you know what? Am I really doing what I ought to be doing? When you can't sleep because the stuff that did get through to you is gnawing on your brain, pick up your phone, look up who Keith Davis Jr. is. Just Google it. Look up who Tyrone West was. Just Google it. There is more than enough evidence that your institution is a corrupt and racist organization. And yet you still think it's the best thing that you can do with your life to spend your time defending it. They don't care about you. I'll tell you something right now. The biggest killer of cops in the United States right now is COVID. And yet your fraternal order of police just put out a statement telling y'all not to get vaccinated and not to disclose your vaccination status. They don't care about you. They care about the politics. There are so many other options that you could have had. And yet what you're ending up doing is standing outside in the middle of the night, babysitting some protesters. Is that really the best use of your time?
Shame.
Shame. When you're lying in bed, when your shift is off, I want you to think about what I'm saying. I want you to remember, you're not going to have a choice. You can't get it out of your mind. I'm going to be in your ear, staring at the bed, sitting on a toilet, whatever you do when you get home. Take the time, look it up. His name was Tyrone West. His name is Keith Davis Jr. You got your phone now. You bored, you could look it up and right now. These are just two cases. I got problems with the HBO special, but the whole reason why they're making it is because two separate books were written about how corrupt the Gun Trace Task Force is. From two different sets of reporters. There's cases going through right now about how corrupt they are. Is that the organization you want to be part of? Is that the best use of your time? Is that what you want to tell your grandkids about? Think about it. Mic check.
Mic check. Mic check. You want to say something else?
Yeah, I just want to suggest we pass the mic around and each person could say, if you like, why you're here, why you came out tonight. Is that okay? We try that?
And if you don't want to, you can pass.
Yeah, if you don't want to do it, you can pass it. Well, you spoke. Want to speak? Hold it real close.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Hey, I'm here because I want to know why 74% of people in prisons have not been convicted of any crime. Free Keith Davis Jr.
Mic check.
You may have to step a little closer.
Justice for Keith Davis Jr., justice for Tyrone West.
Yes, mic check.
Justice for Keith Davis Jr., justice for Tyrone West. That is the only way. It's a part of continue fighting against the power that this state attorney represents. I'm here also from Johns Hopkins, another big power in the city that probably is paying almost of your salaries or part of your salaries. Probably there is money behind among all your bosses. So here we are for stopping like this corruption is not only corruption, it's not only money, but it's crime. It's crime against Keith Davis Jr., keeping him in jail after almost killing him. Are you crazy? Yeah. And after killing Tyrone West, and there is no accountability, nobody in prison, so that's why I'm here. Free Keith Davis Jr., yeah. Justice for Tyrone West.
Mic check.
Justice for Tyrone West.
I'm here because I refuse to be a cog in a system that kills innocent people, that throws people in jail to labor as slaves for no reason other than to fill the pockets of the people, just fill pockets of others. And I'm here because I want to see justice for Keith Davis Jr., justice for Tyrone West, justice for everyone who has just been hurt and killed by these corrupt police officers and others.
Yes, mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Anybody else?
Anyone else?
All right.
Thank you guys for definitely coming out and speaking out. And now this portion of West Wednesday is where we read from two sad lists. One is the victims of the current homicide list, and then also the police brutality list. And it's really sad. So before we read this list, I just ask everybody, whoever, I don't know if you're religious or not, even if you're not, let's just hold this ground for 1 minute for all the victims of police brutality, including Keith Davis Jr., for all the ones that were murdered, that survived, just for all the murders that's happening in the city, because guess what? Nobody wants to wake up to a call saying your loved one was murdered. Because guess what? That day you get that call is the day, trust me, I know from that standpoint, that's the day your life changes forever. The old you died with your loved one. Let's be crystal clear. I don't care if it was from community violence or from police brutality. The only thing where I say is the big difference is that when community violence, if people stand up and talk, you probably will never see the person and testify against someone. You'll never see the person again. But the difference when a police officer murders, we know who they are, we know what they did, and if they ever get prosecuted, they hardly get any time at all, if any. That's a big difference, and that's a horrible difference. So I just ask everybody to take 1 minute of silence. So if you pray, say a prayer for the families, or just keep them in thought, and just think of ways that we can demolish this system, so that another innocent person does not have to die from community violence or the hands of people that are supposed to serve and protect us. That is horrible. But this is our reality, and it's every day, and all the news worry about is reporting it. And like Ben said, I am glad that HBO is putting it out there so people around the world can see it. But I just thought it was very unique and ironic, that place where they picked my brother, where he was brutally murdered. His execution site. That ponders my mind. They picked his exact execution site to talk about the Gun Trace Task Force and their corruption. That's my biggest thing in it, because Tyrone West's name should have been completely in that. But it doesn't even matter, because we know what happened. The people on Causeway know what happened. But again, I'll ask before we read these two sad lists, let's just take 1 minute. Matter of fact, let's take 2 minutes. 2 minutes of silence, just to show respect and show homage to these families that loved ones are gone or affected by this corrupt system. Starting now. Thank you again. Can we all say Ashe?
Ashe.
Thank you. So who's reading the homicide list? So we have our brother Brian. Mic check.
Mic check.
I have actually a short list this week, thankfully. It's probably not a complete list, but it's just a list of people who were killed and with the police names police have announced between the 13th and the 23rd. This is the Baltimore homicides. The ones that the names that police have announced for that time period. So, since I have that, that's thankfully small. I want to take a couple moments to talk about some other things. Two other things. One is, in addition to that list, I think it's important that we remember that today, 3 years ago today in Pittsburgh, a white supremacist walked into the Tree of Life synagogue, thank you, in Pittsburgh and killed 11 people there. And that's, this is all part of the same thing. It's all white supremacy. It's all the violence of the capitalist and imperialist system that we live under. And so I want to just take a quick moment to pass in silence for those 11 people. Ashe.
Ashe.
I also want to talk about something else that's going on currently, and that's the Ahmaud Arbery trial. Except that's wrong. It's actually the Travis McMillan trial. And we over and over hear about the Breonna Taylor demonstrations, or we hear about the George Floyd riots, or the Freddie Gray riots. And we end up identifying these people with the wrongs that have been done.
The victims.
We identify the problem. We say the problem is the victim. It's not the Ahmaud Arbery trial. It's the Travis McMillan trial. They weren't Freddie Gray riots. They were riots about 6 cops in Baltimore who killed someone. And we need, I know that because the cops hide their identities so much, a lot of times all we have to go on is the name of the victim. But I want us to all remember, as I read these names off, these people are victims, and especially the people that Bill will be reading about in a moment. These are the victims, but they are more than victims. They're people, and they deserve the respect and care that the system doesn't give them. So if you'll please echo the names back to me. Ronald Morgan Jr., 45.
Ronald Morgan Jr., 45.
Whitney Purcell, 33.
Whitney Purcell, 33.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check. Thank you, Shorty. So I'll be reading the names of people that the police killed around the United States in the most recent week for which that's been reported. Is that better? Okay. Just a few numbers first, to put it in a little perspective. The police kill about 1,100 people a year around the United States. That's been true through the Obama years, the jerk that came after him, and it's true so far in the current year under Biden. 1,100 a year means they kill about 3 people a day. Now, I'm going to read you this one week. It's 13 people that the Washington Post has kept track of as having been killed. However, it was probably more than that, because 3 a day for this time period would be a larger number. So, unfortunately, we probably can't honor all those who've been killed. But if you would please say the name after I read it to uplift them. The first, killed by police in Washington, D.C., unarmed, 30 years old, October the 18th, DeAndre Johnson.
DeAndre Johnson.
Killed on October the 19th in Falmouth, Maine, 51 years old, Daniel DeMilo.
Daniel DeMilo.
killed in Pensacola, Florida on October 19th. Unfortunately, this person has not been identified as yet. Ashe.
Ashe.
Killed in Golden Valley, Nevada by police, October the 19th, 41 years old, Richard Thomas.
Richard Thomas.
Killed in Syracuse, New York on October the 20th. This is a woman. She has not yet been identified. Ashe.
Ashe.
Killed on October the 20th in Arlington, Texas, 40 years old, Jesse Fisher.
Jesse Fisher.
Killed on October the 21st in Campbell County, Tennessee, 34 years old. Please honor Michael Hilton.
Michael Hilton.
Killed on October 22nd by the police in Doral, Florida, 25 years old, Jordani Perez.
Jordani Perez.
Killed on October the 23rd in Fort Belknap, Montana. And this person was a man not yet identified. Ashe.
Ashe.
Whoop. I'm so sorry. I just hit the wrong button and we lost it. I need 1 minute to get the spot back.
Let me hold that for you.
Thanks.
While we wait, can we say free Keith Davis Jr.?
Free Keith Davis Jr.
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 Free Keith Davis Jr. Not there yet. Sorry. Accountability for Tyrone West.
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 Put killer cops in cell blocks.
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 Free Keith Davis Jr.
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 I'm so sorry. It says a problem repeatedly occurred with this website. So there were 5 more people who the police killed have already been named in the most recent week for which data has been provided. So perhaps we could say for each one, Ashe. Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Mic check.
Mic check.
So I respect everybody's time, and we're pretty much going to wrap up now. But again, I ask you guys to really keep Keith Davis Jr. family in prayers. Keep Kelly Davis in prayers, because if life go on, she need her husband. Like, she literally need her husband. Birthdays are passing. Sometimes her children not feeling well. Her husband should be there with her. No woman should not go through that type of stuff alone, especially when your husband is innocent. That is disgusting. So again, keep our families in prayer. Again, demand that Marilyn Mosley meet with the West family and finally give us closure. Even if she's not going to do it, be a woman enough to say, you know what, I'm not going to do it. The end. We can move on. But what you're not going to do is just ignore us. That's very disrespectful. And then while you at it, give Angela Timothy Fleming's autopsy report. What kind of, this is ridiculous. Like, bad enough, tragically enough, he was executed in his home in front of his children. And then the children are actually still living in that same home where they watched their father take their last breath. So I'll be coming at you guys, because we're trying to raise funds right now. We just want to get it running past Angela and the family, because it's their family, and I respect their family, so whatever they say, I'm going to honor their wishes. But it's for them. But I couldn't imagine, I just want to say this, I couldn't imagine living where in the same neighborhood where my brother was killed, or where my cousin Tavon Anderson was murdered. If I lived in any of those neighborhoods, I would move. I can't even stand going on Kentmore and Cowsbury where my brother took his last breath. But I know, as my brother's keeper, I have to sometimes face challenges that I don't want to do and just do it. I have no choice. I didn't want to go to court on Thursday. I wanted to be at work, but I took a day off without pay to look Killer David Lewis in the eyes and let him know, you might have sat on my brother's neck until he was dead, but you didn't kill him. Because guess who? Tyrone West lives through me. So he's going to always be here. Tyrone West lives through me. And his kids, his family, he's going to always be a part of us. Timothy Flemings lives through his family and through us as well. Right. Anthony Anderson, all the victims, the list goes on. All the victims live through us. And it is our, and I just want us to end on this note. And a wise woman said it. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We have nothing to lose but our chains. Can y'all say that with me? It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We have nothing to lose. We have nothing to lose but our chains. And that's it. We have nothing to lose. They done did the worst when they're murdering our loved ones in cold blood, in broad daylight. They done did the worst. When an innocent man is walking down the street, he hears somebody say run, he take off running. As if Freddie Gray did and was murdered for making eye contact. Keith Davis Jr. ran, and I would have ran too. And if that wasn't enough, they shot at him over 40-something times, hitting him 3. And he has to live through this pain and torture. Not only that, like I said, the corruption is worse than the brutal, heinous attacks. Let's be crystal clear. I should have never went in my purse to have my brother's body examined because the medical examiner's office took 5 months to release a partial autopsy report to regurgitate what the killer cop said. Not nothing about what the witnesses said, and most importantly, they didn't let Tyrone's body speak for itself. It wasn't transparent. That was a biased report. Let's be crystal clear. They said my brother died from a bad heart and dehydration. Are you freaking kidding me? They never took pictures. I took pictures. I was the reporter. I'm everything. When I say I'm my brother's keeper, oh man, y'all don't even know the half. But they know, and if they don't know, they're going to know. Because as they see, 8 years through all the pain and tears, I ain't going nowhere. I ain't going nowhere. I ain't going nowhere. And that's how I'm going to end it on that note. I love you guys. Keep fighting. Keep doing what's right. Because guess what? My family today, yours tomorrow. My family today, yours today. This can easily be someone you know, someone you love. Easily. And it will cover it up. They will, and that's the worst part. Bad enough somebody getting murdered or shot at, that's horrible, right? But the fact that they have everybody covering up. And I want y'all to think about this. Those are the only people that can get away with bloody murder by just saying, I feared for my life. Let me ask y'all a question. I want y'all to think about this. Can firefighters, whose job is real crucial, very important, and their life can end at any time because they're the real heroes. They're actually going in homes that are blazing fires, regardless of what training or whatever. But they're putting their life literally, physically on the line to go and save lives. But could they sit down on the curb and let a house with a family burn down to the ground and their boss show up and say, why the hell are y'all sitting down here? Why didn't y'all save that family? Could they say, oh, I fear for my life? Everything was falling in like Chicken Little. The sky was falling. Everything was falling in. I feared for my life. I didn't want to go in there. It was too burning down everything. Could they get away with murder? Because that's what it would be. If they let a fire, they got the skills to save a life and they stand there and do nothing. But why is it that they can kill us, they can do everything? Stephon Clark holding a cell phone, gunned down his grandmother's backyard. I feared for my life. They knew it was a cell phone. How many more? How many more Keith Davis Jr.? Let's bring Keith Davis Jr. home. Let's get Marilyn Mosley to open up my brother's case ASAP and indict all of the killer cops involved. Do your job. We're not trying to do us a favor. We're not trying to bully her. We're saying, madam, ma'am, do your damn job. Mic check.
Mic check.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh,